This is a recording to show you how new Canada-Ukraine authorization for emergency travel program portal works and how you would need to apply online. This recording is for information purposes only, and the information shared does not constitute legal advice. If you have any specific questions, you should consult with a legal practitioner about your situation. So in order to apply for the new Canada-Ukraine Authorization for Emergency Program, you can just look it up. You can see it. Government of Canada published it on its website. When you click on the news, you will get to the page where it describes the program, and you can apply if you're outside of Canada or you're inside Canada. So we're going to look at how the application for people outside Canada looks like. When you click on this, you can see that the Ukrainian nationals and family members of Ukrainian nationals could apply, and we'll just select this to see how to actually get to the application portal itself. You should read the instructions and the information provided here. And when you scroll the way down, you see the button that says how to apply for the Canada-Ukraine Authorization Emergency Travel. When you click on it, you will see 3 steps that you need to take in order to complete the application. You will need to get an invitation code, create an account, and complete the online form. You can only apply for this program online now. So if you haven't created your IRCC portal yet, you would click on sign up and apply. And then when you click on it, you will get a window like this where it asks you to input your email address twice. Once you do that, you click on the invitation code and it will generate a code for you. This is a sample code that I've generated. You should do your own. And when you get the invitation code, you need to copy it. So you can click on this, or you can just select it and copy paste it. And then you click continue to the IRCC portal sign up page. So we'll do that. And then you'll see a window with the following fields. So you need to input the invite code that you just generated. And then you put your email address, password, confirm your password, you put your last name exactly as it's shown on your passport or identity document that you're applying with. You put your first name, you put your telephone number, and select whether it's Canada or elsewhere. And then when you input all these fields, you would click on sign up, and it will generate a code that you'll receive in your email. You'll need to enter a code, and it'll create a portal for you. So I already created a portal for myself. So I'm just going to click on sign in. And when you sign in, it takes you to this first page where it shows terms and conditions. You should really read them before you click accept. And then it takes you to the first page of starting an application. So when you get here, you would click on apply for a visitor visa, transit visa, or study permit. And we'll see how the portal really looks. So make sure you're eligible before you apply, have these items ready. You should really read the instructions of the portal carefully, and because they do answer some of the questions that you may have about the application. You'll have 60 days to submit a complete application after you create it in your IRCC portal. So I acknowledge that I've read this, and we'll get straight to the questions. The first question is, do you want to apply for more than one person? So if you're going to be traveling alone and applying just for yourself, you would click no, and then just, so no, I don't want to do a group application. I just want to apply for one person. If you're traveling with your children, your spouse, and the other relatives, and you want to submit one application together, you would click yes, and it will generate a group. It says that you need to complete an application for each member, submit all the applications, and pay, even though the fees are waived. So you would select a family, and then you put a name create a name for the group. So family, Smith, or whatever your last name is, for example, or you can just put your last name like that, and then it generates a group. And then when you generate a group, you will see and separate applications for each member. you need to add an application for every person that's applying within the group, even dependent children, even children under 18, each has to have their separate application within the group. So in order to create it, you would need to click on add member, and then you can add as many members as there are in your family that are applying together for this Canada-Ukraine Authorization for Emergency Travel Program. And then once you add enough members, you will complete questions for each member separately. So we'll just start with the first one. This is the first set of questions you get. And here we're talking about this new program. So I'm going to select Canada-Ukraine Authorization for Emergency Travel. It's asking if you're a Ukrainian national or immediate family member of Ukrainian national. So Ukrainian people who hold a valid Ukrainian passport can apply under this program. Also, if you're a spouse or a common law partner or a dependent child and are not Ukrainian citizen, but you are married or your parents are Ukrainian citizen, you would qualify under immediate family member, and you would select this. So, well, we'll just select the Ukrainian national here. And it's asking if you want to work while you're in Canada. You may be eligible to apply for an open work permit. If you click yes, that means that you are applying for a work permit at the same time, and you should be able to get that work permit as soon as you enter Canada, usually in the airport. So here you would click, I agree that my signature constitutes my signature for the open work permit application. And remember, everywhere you're declaring that information you're providing is truthful, complete, and correct. This is very important because if your information is not correct or complete, it may have detrimental consequences for this application and for any future applications that you are submitting for visas in Canada. And then UCI number, so unique client identifier. If you've applied for a Canadian visa in the past, you may already have a UCI number. It would be the same. If you haven't, or if you don't know your UCI number, you can just skip this question and continue. Here it has a list of documents that you need to include in your application. We already talked about some supporting documents in previous sessions, so I'm not going to discuss it in detail. But I encourage you to read these instructions before continuing. So we'll continue to the application. Representative, if you're applying for yourself, you would say no. If you're applying on behalf of someone else, so if you're helping somebody to complete an application, you would say yes. And then you don't have to be a lawyer or an immigration consultant to be a representative. You can be an authorized pay representative, in which or you can just be a family member or friend or third party who doesn't charge a fee. You need to indicate that here, and then you would put information about the representative, quite detailed, was location, email, name, phone number. And then if you do answer yes to this representative question, you would need to also upload use of representative form together with your application, which says that I'm appointing a representative. So you would put, the applicant would put their name. So this would be the last name, first name of the applicant. And then here you would include representative details and mark if they are uncompensated or compensated. And this form needs to be signed by the representative and dated, and then it needs to be signed by the applicant, by the person who's applying for a visa. So let's get back to where we were in the portal. So I'm just going to say no. So we move on from this. Let's keep going. Travel documents. So you need to put your last name. So let's just put last name. I mean, you need to put your own last name and then given name. You can put Jane, for example, or whatever your first name is, obviously. It says optional, but you need to fill this out. Date of birth, you would include, it's not letting me select it. So you put your date of birth, so let's say 1990. I'm just putting random information in just for the sake of demonstrating how the portal works. Female, let's keep going. a type of travel document. So you would, if you have your passport, you would select passport, Ukrainian. If you're applying under this program, most likely. What's the nationality? Also Ukrainian, most likely. What's your passport number? So it's usually a combination of letters and numbers. You need to put it twice. Date of issue. We already talked about travel document requirements and what to do if you don't have your passport or if your passport has expired. We've discussed this in the session on March 19th, so I encourage you to go back and listen to it. Some of the information was discussed in Ukrainian as well. So here, and then if you have other travel document, you would sort of do the same. So I'm just going to leave this as is. This is just random numbers to illustrate how the portal works. Are you a lawful permanent resident of the United States? I'm going to say no. Have you held a Canadian visitor visa in the past 10 years? If you have, you need to say yes. Do you currently hold a valid US non-immigrant visa? No. And then are you traveling to Canada by air? I guess yes, because that's most likely how you're getting here, unless you are in the US. And then we continue citizenship in places where the applicant lived. So country or territory where you were born, we're going to say Ukraine, again, because most of the people applying are going to be born or lived in Ukraine, but not necessarily. Obviously, you put the country where the applicant was born and then the city, say Lviv. And then it's asking you, are you a citizen of more than one country or territory? So you have a passport. If you have citizenship from any other country, you would have to say yes. And then you would have to add which countries or territories you're a citizen of. So when you click on add, you would select, just whichever other country. You can say that you're a citizen from birth, or you can select the date when you became a citizen of that country and indicate that. So let's see. I want to cancel that. Oh, it's not letting me. Maybe I'll just need to fill it out and then delete it. Let's see. So I'll just say no. And then here it's which country or territory you're citizen of. I'm just going to say Ukraine because we're just assuming here. And then it's asking if you're a citizen of this country or territory since birth. So yeah, most likely for a lot of you, that will be the answer. And it auto-populates. If you click on this, it auto-populates your birth date. This is what I put in as an example. Or you can put when you became a citizen of Ukraine, if that's which your selection is. You can put the date in there if you know the exact date. Do you have a valid national identity document? If you have Ukrainian internal passport, usually you would say yes, and then you would put in document number twice, and then you would put date of issue of the passport and select the country or territory that issued this document. So this would be Ukraine. Be mindful that if you select yes to this question, the system will ask you to upload a copy of this document at the end of this application. If it's a Ukrainian passport, it looks like an ID card, like a plastic ID card, and it has information in both Ukrainian and English. So you may not need to translate it. If it's an old version Ukrainian internal passport, then you will need to upload it together with a translation. We already talked about this in our previous sessions in terms of how to the requirements and the translations, whether they need to be certified and all these details. Or if you say no, you don't have national identity documents, you can continue. Again, all the information you're providing needs to be complete, correct, and truthful. So you really need to answer the questions, not just to get going through the system, but provide all the information in a complete way. Have you used another name in the past? Yes, this could be a situation if you got married and changed your name or changed your name at some point overall. So you would have to select whatever, say, previous name. If you used it, so you would put your last name and your given name, and then last name, given name, Joe, save. For example, I'm going to delete this entry for now, but just to illustrate the point. I'm going to say no to keep going. Then the system asks you about your residential address. This is the address where you currently live. So you would say, if you're applying, you're still in Ukraine, you would put your Ukrainian address. Some people, it's asking you for the address that you are residing at, not for the address that you're registered under. Sometimes that may be two different things. So you put the address where you live. So we put street, let's say 1 King Street. City, Lviv, postal code optional. Is your mailing address the same? Most likely yes. And then countries and territories, you have to put all countries. So you have to put the current address again, and then you have to put all other countries where you lived for the past 5 years for more than 6 months. So if you resided in any country for more than 6 months since 2017, then you have to input this information here. So well, here we put Ukraine. If you are currently, you put at least one entry where you're currently residing. So say you're still in Ukraine, you're putting citizen from whenever you started living there. Let's say you started living in this address at this date. So you must select one address where you currently live. So this would be the last one. If you're currently living somewhere else, if you've relocated from Ukraine already, you may want to put your current address and then add the address where you lived in Ukraine before. So again, important to have all the information captured truthfully, completely, correctly, so there are no issues with it afterwards. So we're going to move on, save and continue. They're asking if you have given biometrics. This is biometrics for Canadian visa application. It's not the same as Ukrainian biometric passport. So if you if you have done biometrics before, you would say yes. Otherwise, you would say no, and it will tell you that you will be required to submit your biometrics. Biometrics are currently mandatory for children over 14 and adults under 79 years of age. So you're likely have to do biometrics. We'll move on here. Post-secondary education history. If you studied at a university, college, vocational school, even if you didn't complete your studies, you would say yes, and you would add details of your studies. So name of the school. If you're still studying, you would select ongoing. Otherwise, you would put the dates when you studied there, level of study, select, say, university, bachelor degree, for example, field of study, law. Let's say you put address of the school. I'm just putting whatever, so the system lets me move on, and then I'll delete this entry. But of course, you have to put accurate information in there. So I'm just deleting this. But again, as I said, you have to put full, accurate, complete information in there for this application. So don't just skip questions. If you don't have answer to them, you need to really make sure that everything is accurate. Work activities history, military, police. If you served in the military, if not, say no. Then for work, you have to add your personal history for the past 10 years. So 10 years, if you are under 28, it will ask you for since you turned 18. So otherwise, you have to go 10 years back. And then you would say, say we'll just capture a period of 10 years. So from January 2010 to ongoing, there has to be at least one entry that's ongoing. You would say work, where you're working. It's if you didn't work, you would say unemployed, or if you retired already, you would select retired. And then you select the field. So for example, I'm selecting law, and I'm selecting well, there are lots of different categories there, so you would have to really review, see what fits the your job description best. Legal, public protection, support, occupation. Let's just say that company, your company, company name. So you put, whatever company you're working at. And then main duties, you put the duties, what you're doing, general. I'm putting lawyer, legal, whatever your duties are, you would need to put a short description. If you are retired, for example, you can just say retired here. And then address, you would put Ukraine. If you were residing in Ukraine, you would put street. Again, I'm putting all the information just randomly, so it lets me complete the questions, but you obviously need to put accurate information about your history. And then you may have to do multiple entries. If you switched jobs or switched activities in the last couple of years, you should not leave any gaps in time. Okay, let's move on. During the past 5 years, have you traveled to a country or territory other than the one where you're citizen? So you need to indicate all the travels, even if it was for a couple of days, for a week. You would select if it was a vacation. So for example, you went on vacation in February 2021. If you left and returned in the same months, it would be the same month selected here. And then country, you select whichever, I don't know, Argentina, location, purpose, vacation, save. Great. And then as many trips as you took in the last 5 years, you have to put it all there. Again, it has to be complete. You may want to check your passport for stamps for some of the dates. Sometimes your passport may not have the stamps, but obviously if you traveled somewhere, you have to put that information in. And then save and continue. It's asking you, have you ever stayed in Canada beyond the validity of your status, attended school in Canada without a study permit, or worked in Canada without authorization, so without a work permit? You really need to be truthful in answering all these questions. So hopefully your answer here is no. And then, have you ever been refused a visa or permit, denied entry to, or ordered to leave any country or territory? Again, it's important to answer truthfully. If yes, then you need to outline briefly the details. If you've applied for a visa to Canada, they may already see that information in the system, so it's important to answer truthfully. Well, we'll just say no and move on here. Criminality, have you ever committed any crime in any country? Have you been arrested, charged, or convicted? So hopefully your answers are no, but again, it's important to answer truthfully to all of this information that's required. Have you been a member of a political party, violence, or criminal activity, or major red flags? And then, have you witnessed or participated in the ill treatment of prisoners or civilians, desecration of religious buildings? Let's say no. Going medical background, asking you if you had a medical exam within the last 12 months. Likely you'd say no. And then you may be asked to do some medical exam after you come in Canada. So this is you're providing consent to submit to these tests after your arrival in Canada. Or if you say yes, it would ask you for more details as to when you did it. So let's save and continue. Medical background questions. These are pretty standard. Tuberculosis. Hopefully you say no to this. Do you currently have dialysis? You had a drug or alcohol addiction, mental health condition, diagnosed with syphilis. Okay, and then marital status. So if you are single, I'll just let you move on. If you are divorced, married, widowed, it would ask you to include details. So for example, if you have been married before and then you're no longer together, you would have to select separated, not single, even though technically you consider yourself single now. So, and again, then if you select married, you would have to put details of your marriage or start of common law relationship. You would have to put the name of your spouse, the date of birth, their country of birth, present occupation. So there's a list you select from, if they're living at the same address as you, and if they are going to be accompanying you to Canada. Even though it's answering yes, if your spouse will join you later, be mindful that if you don't know whether your spouse is going to be applying for an application, then you may want to select no, so then it doesn't delay processing of your application, and then they can always apply later under separate portal and separate application. So I'm just going to change this back to single so we can move on. Children, do you have any biological, adopted, or step children? It doesn't matter if they're over 18, it doesn't matter if they live with you, live in other countries, you have to put the information about all the children, including adopted and stepchildren. So if you say no, it says that I understand, I'm not declaring any. So even if they're not coming with you, even if they're not applying for a visa at the same time as you, even if they're adults and have their own families, you still have to input information in here. Even if they passed away, you still have to put information in here if you had children. So it's important to complete all the information truthfully. So in order to add children, you would press here, you put last name, first name, date of birth. If the child is deceased, it would ask you to check this off, and then relationship, son, daughter, stepdaughter, and then country or territory of birth. So you would have to select it. Well, I'm just going to say no so we can move on. And sorry, let's just go back for a second. And then obviously it lets you add multiple children as well. So there's just going to be, let's just add one to last name. I'm just putting anything to show you how it's going to look like. Does this child have yes? And if the child, let's say yes, save, and then like it's just gonna say, it's just gonna have the information here. Let's delete this entry so we can move on. And one other point about children, even if you included them on the previous screen, you still need to complete separate set of questions for your children if they are applying for visitor visa application with you. So it's not enough to just add your children here. If you want your children to also get, even though this asks you for, there is a question, if the child is not in Canada, will they accompany you to Canada? If you say yes, even then you still have to complete the entire set of questions for them separately. Otherwise, they're not going to be getting a visa application with you at the same time. Okay, and then for parents, unless you don't know who your parents are, you really should be putting information about them. And again, similar screen, you put last name, first name, relationship, mother, father, date of birth. If this parent is deceased, it will ask you for date of death. It will ask you for country of birth and present occupation. I think it's not asking you for present occupation if you check deceased. And then it's asking if this parent has the same address as you and will they be coming with you to Canada. So again, you should answer truthfully, completely, add both parents, mother and father before going on. I'm just gonna click this so we can move on. What's your native language? For example, you'll put Ukrainian, and then it's asking if you can communicate in English or French, and if you want us to contact you, if you want Immigration Canada to contact you in English or French. So let's just say that, and then you put your email address. You may want to put your the email address that you created a portal with, or you can actually put a different email address. It doesn't matter. So I have to input it in order to move on, otherwise it's not going to let me go further. Save and continue. Telephone number, it's optional, so you don't have to input it if you don't want to. And then this is a summary. So here's at the top are all the questions that we just answered. Unfortunately, you can't click on the separate field to switch to it directly, but you can see it all here. When you click on expand, you will see all the answers to all the questions. And I really encourage you to review these answers before going further to make sure that all the information is complete, accurate, that you didn't miss anything. It's important to provide full picture and full disclosure. Canada does not really like when you are not transparent and truthful on your applications. And we'll just click save and continue, so we can collapse it, or you can go back to any section and edit it. So just gonna move you back, and then you have to click on save and continue to get back to this final field. Sorry, to the final screen here. And then we get to the documents. So supporting documents, depending on your answers, it may generate also your internal passport to be able to upload. Here it's asking for your international passport. All attachments have to be size limit 2 megabytes and preferably PDF format. Preferably the name should be stating clear what the attachment is. You can click on add file and select the file from your computer. We talked about some of the issues around expired documents or how to extend them or what to do if you don't have a passport. We had a session on it on March 19th. And then the system also allows you to attach optional documents. So this would be space to attach a letter of invitation or proof of funds for your stay, consent, personal information if you authorize CBSA or IRCC to release information to someone other than yourself, employer letter if you do have the employer letter. If not, then it's optional. And then additional documents, anything else that you want to submit together with your application, you can put it together in one document and add it here under this field. All documents that are not in English or French have to be translated when you're uploading them, otherwise they may not be they will not be considered. So once you upload it, like the system's not going to let me go further because I didn't upload my passport, but after you upload it, you'll get to the screen. The next one is where you'll see fees, and the fees for this applications are waived. So it will be 0 fees that you need to pay, at least at this time, if you're applying in March 2022. And then the next field, the next screen will be consent and declaration, where it will ask you to put in your first name and last name, and you putting it in constitutes your signature. And then once you do that and click save and continue, that will basically be completing your application. Now, if you're applying for more than one person in a group, you would have to return to group table and then do the same steps again for all your family members that are applying together with you. So here you would then select the next person we added, like your kids, for example. And then again, you have to go through all the same set of questions and select Canada Ukraine authorization. If your kids are also Ukrainian, you would select this. So for each child individually, you would select, I mean, depending yes or no, and then do the same thing again. So that's, and then once you go back, you can, once you complete for all the members in your family, you will click this button, which says, I confirm I completed all the applications in this group. Then it will let you select who's going to be the primary applicant, and you will indicate the relationship to the primary applicant for all the other people in the group. And once you do that and complete all the applications, then that's pretty much it. Now, all the updates on your applications, you will be receiving an email, and in the email, it will tell you to go back and check your IRCC portal. So you can, you know, it's going to have, the email is going to have a link to sign in. Otherwise, you can always just go back to this very first page where we started. And like when you click sign in, it will ask you to input your information and sign in there and check for updates. So that's pretty much it. Hopefully this was helpful, and all the best with your applications.